Imagine this. You are standing in the center of a crowded room. The air is thick with the hum of low conversation, the clinking of glass against glass, the performative laughter of people who seem entirely at ease in their own skin. You, however, are not. You feel a familiar, cold tightening in your chest, a friction between the person you feel you are expected to be and the person you actually are. You feel the weight of a mass pressing against your face, heavy and suffocating, yet terrifying to remove. In a moment of vulnerability, perhaps days earlier, you confess this feeling of alienation to a friend, a mentor, or perhaps just to the void of the internet. And the world, in its infinite, shallow wisdom, echoed back the single most pervasive piece of advice of the modern era. Just be yourself. It sounds like salvation, doesn't it? It sounds like permission, a license to exhale. Just drop the act. Just let the real you surface. But as you stand there in that room, watching the light catch the eyes of strangers, you realize that this advice is not a key to a cage, it is the bars. Because here is the terrifying thought that creeps in when the noise fades. What if yourself is the problem? What if being yourself is the very thing that has kept you stagnant, anxious, and paralyzed? What if the self you are so desperately trying to protect and project is not a treasure chest of hidden gold, but a collection of obsolete defenses, inherited fears, and automated responses that you never chose in the first place? We treat identity like it is a buried artifact, something static and ancient, waiting to be excavated from the dirt of social conditioning. We believe that if we just dig deep enough, we will find the real me, shining and perfect. But this is the lie. This is the seduction. Consider the paradox. You crave change. You want to be more confident, more disciplined, more charismatic, or more at peace. You want to transcend your current limitations. Yet, the culture commands you to be yourself. Do you not see the contradiction? To change is, by definition, to stop being who you currently are. To grow is to betray the current self for the sake of a future one. If you simply be yourself, you are doomed to repeat the patterns of yesterday forever. So, who is the self you are supposed to be? Is it the you who wakes up at 3 a.m., gripped by existential dread? Is it the you who snaps in anger at a loved one, driven by a childhood trigger you haven't resolved? Is it the you who procrastinates on your dreams because of a fear of failure? If that is yourself, then being yourself is the worst possible advice you could follow. The tension you feel right now, that vibrating anxiety in your gut, is not because you are failing to be yourself. It is because you are sensing, perhaps for the first time, that the self is an illusion. It is a story you have told yourself so many times that you have mistaken the script for the actor. Imagine walking through a hall of mirrors. In every reflection, you see a different version of you. The you that your parents know, the you that your boss knows, the you that exists in the privacy of your own mind. Which one is the real one? The modern world tells you to pick one and cling to it, to solidify it into a brand, a bio, a static identity. But deep down, you know the truth is more fluid, more terrifying, and more liberating. Why does this advice persist? Why do we cling to it with religious fervor? Because the alternative is absolute vertigo. If you are not yourself, then who are you? If you are not the sum of your past, your preferences, and your personality traits, then you are a void, a nothingness, and human beings will choose the misery of a known prison over the terror of an open, undefined sky. We are terrified of the void, so we build a self to fill it. We curate it, we defend it, we say, I'm just an introvert, or I'm just not a creative person, or I'm the kind of person who. We use being myself as a shield to avoid the agonizing work of becoming something new. But ask yourself this, when you look back at who you were 10 years ago, do you recognize that person? Do you cringe at their naivety? Do you marvel at their choices? If that person was you then, and you are you now, but the two are completely different, then the self is not a noun, it is a verb. It is a process. And if it is a process, it can be directed. The lie of just being yourself is not just harmless platitude. It is a psychological sedative. It keeps you docile. It keeps you consuming. It keeps you looking inward for answers that can only be found by breaking outward. It convinces you that you are a finished product in a world that demands you be a perpetual prototype. So let us stand at the edge of this abyss together. Let us dare to ask the questions that the culture ignores. If we strip away the comforting lie, if we admit that being yourself is a trap, what is left? If you are not your thoughts, not your past, and not your personality, then what is the terrifying, powerful force looking out from behind your eyes? To answer that, we must descend. We must look at the machinery beneath the floorboards of the human mind. We have to understand why this lie was constructed, who constructed it, and the devastating price we pay for believing it. The cost is not just your happiness. The cost is your freedom. The journey we're about to take requires you to leave yourself at the door, because where we are going, you won't need it. To understand why this lie holds such absolute dominion over your mind, you must first understand what the self actually is. We tend to think of the self as a soul, a ghost in the machine, an immutable core that was there at birth and will be there at death. But psychology and neuroscience paint a far more unsettling picture. The self is not an object. It is a story. It is a narrative construct created by your brain to make sense of the chaos of existence. From the moment you were born, you were bombarded with sensory data, lights, sounds, pains, pleasures. To navigate this overwhelming storm, your brain began to seek patterns. It learned that when you cry, mother comes. It learned that when you are quiet, you are praised. Layer by layer, like sediment hardening into rock, these feedback loops calcified into what you call your personality. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who mapped the darkest corners of the human psyche, warned us about this precise mechanism. He distinguished between the self, the totality of the psyche, and the persona. The persona is the mask we wear to interface with the world. It is the curated selection of traits that society applauds, the politeness, the diligence, the specific flavor of humor you use to diffuse tension. When you try to just be yourself, you are almost invariably trying to be your persona. You are polishing the mask, mistaking the papier-mâché for your own skin. You are doubling down on the traits that kept you safe as a child, unaware that they are suffocating you as an adult. Jung argued that the more we identify with this bright, acceptable persona, the larger our shadow grows, the repository of everything we repress, deny, and ignore. By trying to be yourself, you are actively suppressing the dangerous, creative, aggressive, and transformative parts of your nature because they do not fit the script you have written. You are not being whole. You are being fragmented. Jean-Paul Sartre, the French existentialist, took this terror a step further. He proposed that the very concept of a fixed nature is a lie we tell ourselves to escape the agonizing weight of freedom. Sartre famously declared that existence precedes essence. You exist first blank, terrified, and free, and only later do you define who you are through your actions. But this freedom is unbearable. If you are free to be anyone, you are responsible for everything you become. That responsibility is heavy. It is crushing. So we retreat into what Sartre called mauvaise foi, bad faith. We pretend we are objects. We say, I can't help it. That's just the way I am. We say, I have a short temper, as if our temper is a limb we were born with, rather than a behavioral pattern we reinforce daily. Just being yourself is the ultimate act of bad faith. It is a philosophical surrender. It is looking at the infinite potential of your consciousness and saying, no thank you, I prefer the cage. Why do we do this? Why do we choose the cage? Because the human brain is not designed for happiness. It is designed for survival. And to the primitive brain, predictability is survival. Uncertainty is death. If you are yourself, if you are consistent, predictable, and static, your tribe knows where you fit. You are safe, you are reliable, the brain rewards this consistency with a chemical hit of safety, a reduction in cortisol. Conversely, changing who you are triggers a primal alarm. To step outside your defined identity is to step into the unknown wilderness. It registers as a threat to the ego, which fights for its life with the same ferocity as a cornered animal. This is why personal change feels like dying, because a part of you is dying. Friedrich Nietzsche, the prophet of self-overcoming, viewed this preservation of the self with utter disdain. For Nietzsche, the goal of life was not to preserve the self, but to surpass it. He spoke of the Übermensch, the overman, not as a superior genetic breed, but as a being who has conquered the desire to remain static. Man is a rope, Nietzsche wrote, tied between beast and overman, a rope over an abyss. The advice to be yourself tells you to stop walking the rope. It tells you to sit down in the middle of the abyss, suspended halfway between your animal instincts and your divine potential, and call it a home. It validates your mediocrity. It tells you that your current state, with all its neuroses, limitations, and fears, is enough. But deep down, you know it isn't. You feel the friction. That is the will to power that Nietzsche described, the fundamental drive within you to expand, to grow, to exert influence over your reality. When you suppress that drive in favor of authenticity, you create an internal civil war. You become a battleground between the biological imperative to grow and the psychological imperative to stay safe. This is the hidden root of the problem. We live in a culture that fetishizes identity as a sacred object. We are told to find our identity, celebrate our identity, and protect our identity. But this obsession is not a path to liberation. It is a path to atrophy. By defining yourself, you confine yourself. As soon as you say, I am X, you effectively say, I am not Y. If you define yourself as logical, you cut yourself off from your intuition. If you define yourself as empathetic, you may cut yourself off from the necessary ruthlessness required to protect your boundaries. The self you are protecting is a hallucination. It is a collection of memories of the past, stitched together to predict the future. But you are not your past. You are the consciousness that perceives the past. You are the void in which the self appears. And this leads us to a disturbing realization. If the self is a construct, and if being yourself is an act of fear disguised as acceptance, then our entire society is built on a foundation of collective delusion. We categorize each other, label each other, and market to each other based on these fabricated avatars. We are actors who have forgotten we are on a stage, reciting lines we never wrote, terrified that if we stop speaking, we will cease to exist. But the consequences of this delusion go far deeper than just philosophical angst. They bleed into the wiring of your brain, the limitations of your career, and the quality of your relationships. The lie of just being yourself is not just keeping you stagnant. It is actively rewriting your reality, blinding you to the doors that are standing wide open right in front of you. You are about to see exactly how this unseen trap operates in the daylight. And once you see the mechanism, you will never be able to unsee it. Now, look at the world around you. Really look at it. It seems objective, doesn't it? The walls are solid, the sky is blue, the opportunities before you are either there or they are not. But this is the next layer of the illusion. You are not seeing the world as it is. You are seeing the world as you are. The most insidious consequence of just being yourself is that it acts as a blinding mechanism. It is a neurological filter that surgically removes any part of reality that contradicts your established identity. Neuroscience calls this the reticular activating system. It is a bundle of nerves at your brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so the sheer volume of sensory data doesn't drive you insane. The RAS creates your subjective reality based on what you focus on and what you believe to be true. If your self is constructed around the belief that you are socially awkward, your RAS will scan every room for rejection. It will highlight the one person frowning at their phone and interpret it as a judgment of you. It will mute the sound of the 3 people who laughed at your joke. You will leave that room with your identity reinforced, not because reality confirmed it, but because you edited reality to fit the script. This is the tyranny of consistency. By clinging to a static definition of yourself, you are actively programming your brain to delete the pathways to your own liberation. You are walking past open doors every single day, unable to see them because they do not match the decor of the prison you have built. Consider the phenomenon of confirmation bias, but apply it to your soul. You are the protagonist, the director, and the editor of your own life movie. But when you subscribe to the cult of being yourself, you become a corrupt editor. You leave the scenes of your bravery on the cutting room floor. You rewatch the scenes of your failures on a loop. You tell yourself, this is who I am, when in reality, you are simply curating a tragedy. But the consequences go deeper than perception. They rot the very wiring of your potential. In the realm of neurobiology, there's a fundamental rule. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you repeat a thought, I'm not good at public speaking. I'm not the type to lead. I'm just a messy person. You are thickening the myelin sheath around that neural circuit. You are turning a dirt path into a superhighway. Being yourself is, biologically speaking, the act of reinforcing your own obsolescence. You are engaging in a daily ritual of neurological suicide, killing off the plasticity that is your birthright. The brain is designed to be water. You are forcing it to become concrete. And what are the social consequences? This is where the trap snaps shut with terrified precision. The moment you decide to be yourself, that specific, curated version of you, you enter into a silent contract with everyone around you. Your friends, your family, your colleagues, they all have a model of you in their heads. They know your lines. They know your role. If you suddenly deviate, if the shy you becomes bold, if the lazy you becomes disciplined, you disrupt their reality. You become a glitch in their matrix. They will subconsciously, or even overtly, try to pull you back. You've changed, they will say, with a tone of accusation. You're not acting like yourself. They will weaponize the lie against you to keep you predictable. Why? Because if you can change, it forces them to ask why they haven't. Your transformation is an insult to their stagnation. So, to avoid the friction, to avoid the loneliness of the outlier, you retreat. You just be yourself to keep the peace. You shrink to fit the room. You sacrifice your expansion for their comfort. This is the unseen tragedy of the modern era. We have entire generations of people paralyzed by their own labels. We have weaponized personality tests, astrological signs, and diagnostic categories to build walls around our potential. We say, I'm an INFP, or I'm a Leo, or I have an addictive personality. And we treat these descriptions as prescriptions. We use them as permission slips to opt out of the struggle of growth. The cost is a life lived in the conditional tense. I would have done that, but it's not really me. Think of the compounding interest of this error. Think of the micro decisions you made over the last 10 years based on who you are. The parties you didn't attend, the businesses you didn't start, the relentless discipline you didn't cultivate because you're just a free spirit. Where would you be right now if you had treated your identity not as a sacred heirloom, but as a tool you could discard and replace at will? The pain you feel, the vague, gnawing sense of dissatisfaction, is the ghost of the person you could have been, haunting the person you insisted on remaining. And the world encourages this. The economy loves yourself. A static, predictable demographic is easy to market to. If you are a gamer, they can sell you the chair. If you are a gym rat, they can sell you the supplement. If you are depressed, they can sell you the cure. But a shapeshifter, a person who is constantly molting, evolving, and redefining their boundaries, that person is dangerous. That person cannot be pinned down by an algorithm. that person is free. The lie of just being yourself is the greatest sedative ever administered to the human race. It convinces you that the discomfort of growth is unnatural. It teaches you to interpret anxiety not as a signal to push through, but as a sign to turn back. If it feels hard, the logic goes, it must not be aligned with my true self. This is the ultimate inversion of truth. Friction is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is the only evidence that you are actually moving. You are standing in a house that is slowly burning down. The smoke is filling your lungs, the regret, the stagnation, the boredom. But the sign on the door says home, so you refuse to leave. You have been convinced that it is better to burn in the house of yourself than to breathe the cold, fresh air of the unknown. But the air is running out. The walls are closing in. And deep down, in the part of you that hasn't yet been colonized by this lie, you know that something has to break. You know that you cannot stay here. You are realizing that the self is not a sanctuary. It is a cocoon. And a cocoon is only a safe place if you are planning to die inside it. If you want to fly, you have to destroy it. The question is no longer who you are. The question is, are you brave enough to kill the person you used to be, to make room for the person you must become? The rebellion begins now. The rebellion begins with a single radical act of destruction. You must take the self you have been worshiping, that fragile, history-laden, limited collection of habits, and you must dismantle it. The solution to the trap of just being yourself is not to find a truer self hidden deeper in the rubble. The solution is to realize that you are the architect, not the building. You are not discovered. You are created. Stop looking inward. The answers are not there. Inside, you will only find the echoes of the past. To break free, you must look outward. You must embrace a concept that feels almost blasphemous to the modern mind: strategic inauthenticity. We have been taught that faking it is a sin. We are told that if we act in a way that conflicts with our internal feelings, we are being dishonest. This is the shackles speaking. The truth is that all transformation requires a period of faking it. When a child learns to walk, they are not a walker. They are a crawler pretending to be a walker. They stumble. They look foolish. They are acting out a reality that does not yet exist. But they do not stop and say, walking just isn't me. I'm an authentic crawler. They persist until the pretense becomes the reality. Aristotle, the father of Western logic, understood this thousands of years ago. He did not say, find your virtue. He said, we become just by doing just acts, temperate by doing temperate acts, brave by doing brave acts. Do you see the reversal? The action precedes the identity. You do not wait until you feel confident to speak. You speak, and through the action, you become confident. You do not wait until you are disciplined to wake up early. You wake up early, and the action forges the discipline. To escape the cage, you must become a practitioner of the alter ego. Look at the greatest figures in history, art, and sport. They rarely just were themselves. They constructed vessels to carry them through the fire. Archibald Leach was a poor, anxious boy from Bristol who wanted to escape his trauma. So he invented a character named Cary Grant. He practiced the accent, the posture, the charm. He wore Cary Grant like a suit of armor until the armor fused with his skin. I pretended to be somebody I wanted to be, he famously said, until finally I became that person, or he became me. Was he a liar? Or was he a visionary who understood that Archibald Leach was not equipped to survive Hollywood, but Cary Grant was? You must do the same. You must identify the gap between your current situation and your desired reality. Then ask yourself, who is the person capable of crossing that bridge? It is not you. It is a version of you that currently exists only in potential. Give this version a name if you must. When you walk into a high-stakes negotiation, you are not the anxious person who hates conflict. You are the cold, rational strategist. When you step into the gym, you are not the tired office worker. You are the machine that does not negotiate with fatigue. You put on the mask. You play the role. This is not deception. It is adaptation. It is the understanding that human consciousness is fluid. You are a shapeshifter who has forgotten how to shift. The rebellion requires you to weaponize cognitive dissonance. Usually, this psychological mechanism works against you. If your actions don't match your beliefs, you feel stress, so you stop the action. But you can flip the polarity. If you force the action, if you relentlessly act like the person you wish to be, your brain will eventually panic and rewrite your self-image to resolve the tension. If you force yourself to speak to strangers every day, your brain cannot maintain the belief, I am shy. It must update the file to, I am the kind of person who talks to strangers. You change the behavior to change the belief. You hack the system from the outside in. This process will feel uncomfortable. It will feel wrong. Your internal monologue will scream, this isn't me. I feel like a fraud. Good. That feeling of being a fraud is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that you are growing. It is the sensation of the old shell cracking. Imposter syndrome is simply the side effect of expanding into new territory. If you don't feel like an imposter, you aren't aiming high enough. You are staying within the borders of the self you have already mastered. To truly rebel, you must divorce your feelings from your actions. The amateur waits for the feeling of inspiration to write. The professional writes, and the feeling follows. The amateur waits to feel brave to take the risk. The professional takes the risk and realizes fear was just a chemical reaction. You must stop treating your feelings as the voice of God. Your feelings are often nothing more than the tantrums of a biological organism that wants to stay in bed, eat sugar, and avoid rejection. Being yourself usually means listening to those tantrums. The rebellion means ignoring them. Imagine your life as a video game. Up until now, you thought you were the character on the screen, limited by the stats you rolled at the beginning of the game. You thought you were stuck with low charisma and high anxiety. But the rebellion is the realization that you are not the character. You are the player holding the controller. You can respect the character, you can upgrade the character, or you can delete the character and roll a new one. This week, try a radical experiment. Choose one situation where you typically shrink, hesitate, or conform to your nature. Decide in advance who you are going to be in that moment. Script the interaction. Choose the posture. And then step into the scene and perform. Do not be, perform. Watch what happens. Watch how the world reacts to this new energy. Watch how the reality shifts around you. You will realize that the world does not care about your authentic inner self. The world reacts to what you project. If you project power, it gives you room. If you project warmth, it smiles back. You have the controls. You always have. You just let them gather dust because you were too busy polishing the mirror, obsessed with the reflection of a person who doesn't even exist. But the rebellion is only the method. It is the how. It brings you power, yes. It brings you control. But there is one final, shattering realization that lies beyond the rebellion. It is the destination where all this striving ultimately leads. It is the truth that turns the self from a project into a playground. The mask is useful, but you must know what lies beneath the mask, or you will simply trade one prison for a shinier one. You are ready for the ultimate truth. You have stripped away the illusion. You have seen the hidden machinery of the mind. You have learned the tools of rebellion and the power of the mask. But there is one final door you must walk through. It is the door that separates the successful from the free. To walk through it, You must be willing to accept a truth so radical, so counterintuitive, that it dissolves the very ground you stand on. We have spoken of constructing a new self. We have spoken of acting, of performing, of becoming. But ask yourself this: if you can change your identity like a change of clothes, if you can be the shy introvert today and the charismatic leader tomorrow, then who are you, really? If the mask can be taken off and the face beneath it can be changed, then what is looking in the mirror? The ultimate truth is not that you have been looking for yourself in the wrong places. The ultimate truth is that there is no self to find. This is the great cosmic joke. This is the secret that mystics, philosophers, and sages have been whispering for millennia, drowning beneath the noise of our ego-driven culture. The Buddhists call it anatta, no self. The existentialists call it the void. You are not the character you play. You are not the backstory you tell. You are not your name, your job, your trauma, or your achievements. You are the space in which all of those things happen. Think of the sky. Clouds drift through it, dark storm clouds of anger, fluffy white clouds of joy, heavy gray blankets of depression. We look at the clouds and say, the sky is angry, or the sky is sad. But the sky is not the clouds. The sky is the vast, untouched, infinite container that holds the clouds. The clouds come and go. The sky remains. Just being yourself is the act of grabbing a passing storm cloud, clutching it to your chest, and screaming, "This is me. This is who I am." It is madness. It is trying to freeze a river in a bucket. When you realize you are the sky and not the weather, the weight of the world drops off your shoulders. This is the paradigm shift that changes everything. If you are not yourself, then you have nothing to protect. You have nothing to defend. You have nothing to prove. Think of the energy you waste every day defending your ego. When someone insults you, why does it hurt? Because they have attacked the story of who you are. But if you know that story is just a fiction, a temporary interface you use to navigate the world, the insult passes right through you. It hits nothing. You become unoffendable. You become invincible. Not because you are hard, but because you are empty. This is the state of the empty boat. If a boat drifts down a river and hits you, and there is someone in it, you get angry, you shout, you blame. But if the boat is empty, you simply push it aside. There is no anger, because there is no target. When you become the empty boat, when you empty yourself of the rigid need to be someone, you move through the world with a terrifying grace. Friction disappears. You stop trying to survive your life, and you start playing it. Life ceases to be a courtroom where you are constantly on trial, trying to prove you are good enough or authentic enough. It becomes a sandbox. It becomes a canvas. You are the artist, and your personality is just the paint. You can use red today. You can use blue tomorrow. You can paint a tragedy, or you can paint a triumph. And if you make a mess, you don't cry because you are a failure. You simply scrape the canvas clean and start again. This is true freedom. Freedom is not being yourself. Freedom is the ability to be whoever the situation demands. It is the fluidity of water. Water can fill a cup, it can flow in a river, it can crash as an ocean, or it can rise as steam. It never asks, but is being steam really me? It simply adapts. It survives. It conquers. So here is the final realization. You are not a noun, you are a verb. You are not a writer, a failure, a lover, or a victim. You are the act of writing, failing, loving, and healing. You are a process of perpetual becoming. The moment you try to trap that process in a definition, the moment you try to be yourself, you kill the magic. You turn the verb into a noun, and nouns are dead things. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with this knowledge burning in your chest. You open your eyes. The sun hits your face. The old thoughts try to rush in the anxiety about the meeting, the regret about the argument, the limitation of your history. But you smile. You recognize them for what they are. Old scripts, dusty costumes. You get out of bed and you ask the only question that matters. Who do I choose to be today? Not who am I, but who do I choose to be? Maybe today requires the warrior. So you put on the armor. You speak with authority. You take the hits. Maybe tomorrow requires the sage. So you listen. You observe. You offer stillness. Maybe the weekend requires the fool. So you dance. You laugh. You make mistakes without shame. You play these roles with total commitment, with absolute passion, but with zero attachment. You know that at the end of the day, you will take off the costume, wash off the paint, and return to the silence of the void, the beautiful, peaceful, infinite void. You are no longer a prisoner of your past. You are no longer a victim of your genetics. You are no longer a slave to authenticity. You are a creator. The lie of just being yourself was the fence that kept you in the playpen, but you have seen over the fence now. You have seen the vast, wild country that lies beyond it. You know that the safety of the playpen was the danger, and the danger of the wild is the only true safety. So, let the old self die. Let it burn. Do not mourn it. It was too small for you anyway. Walk out the door. The air is cold, but it is fresh. The path is unmarked, but it is yours. Do not be yourself. Create yourself. And when that creation no longer serves you, destroy it and create yourself again. This is the work of a lifetime. This is the only game worth playing. The script is blank. The pen is in your hand. Begin.